This month we saw the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 Remastered. To many, the 4 Pro Skater games are the best the series had to offer. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't really have much memory of these games growing up, mainly because I was not even 3 years old when the first one released, and it wasn't until 2003 that I would be introduced to the Tony Hawk series. But this wasn't a Pro Skater game. Instead, the series decided to take things underground.
Back to scratch. Music power.
After 4 successful games in the Pro Skater series, Neversoft decided to switch things up a bit with the series' next release, and gave it the name Tony Hawk's Underground, with a bigger emphasis on the story and the player's custom character, rather than relying on the Pro Skaters. I always find it such a mad coincidence that in the same year 2 completely different franchises would take their existing IPs in new directions with the subtitle of Underground, then a year later drop a sequel, then scrapping that sub-series a year after, then every game following being a standalone experience before slowly decreasing in popularity in the late 2000s. For me, the Underground games would be some of my favourites of the OG Xbox era, and it's a series I have fond memories of. So today I just wanted to see if it still holds up over 20 years later, and spoiler alert, it does. Tony Hawk's Underground was released in late October of 2003 on PS2, Xbox, GameCube and later PC. So yeah, today I'm looking at Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2. I thought it'd be the perfect time to look back at some of my favourite Tony Hawk games. I am talking about both games, so with the video I did skip over certain features and certain things to talk about because I didn't want the video to be too long. But then once I recorded it and put it into the editing software, I realised it wasn't that long actually, so I added a few more things on top of that. There's still things I have to skip over just because I didn't have time to talk about them. But I hope you enjoy the video anyway. I'm going to keep this intro short. All I wanted to say is my gameplay isn't the best. I'm not a pro player. I have watched other people play Tony Hawk's games in the last few weeks, and it makes my gameplay look like Stevie Wonder's trying to play the game. It's not that great, but so please don't hate on my footage. I'm not a pro player or someone who plays it a lot. I'm just a casual player who enjoys it casually. So yeah, just thought I'd let you know my gameplay isn't the best, but anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. So without further ado, let's get straight in to Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2. For the first time in the series' history, this game would actually have a story attached to it. In the Pro Skater games, you would just go from level to level, doing different objectives, with no real rhyme or reason to them. But in Underground, there's a bit more purpose. You start off as a young skater in New Jersey, trying to get noticed by pro skaters and skate shops to get sponsored, to pursue your career in the skating world with help from your friend, Eric Sparrow. Now, it isn't on the level of Red Dead 2 or The Last of Us, but it's not a bad story. It's a lot of fun and what you expect from a Tony Hawk game, with crazy objectives. It's light-hearted, doesn't take itself too seriously, but does have a few twists and turns to keep it engaging. When you see cutscenes from it, you can definitely tell it's a game from the early 2000s.
Yo, check this out. It's louder than a Metallica concert in there!
For their first attempt at actually trying to make sense of these wacky things you get up to in a Tony Hawk game, it actually does a great job of tying it all together in a cohesive story, even if the first half an hour is you trying to escape to Manhattan from New Jersey because your mate Eric decides to become a terrorist. I'm not even lying. In the first level there's a group of dealers who hang around a house who steal Eric's skateboard, and he gets revenge on them by blowing up their fucking car.
I gotta finish doing something here. These guys are gonna pay.
Oh, we all like a bad boy though, don't we?
Yeah, not a fucking terrorist, though, Chris.
Honestly, this is a running theme with Eric, just being an absolute nutcase.
Thanks for being the cop's errand boy and getting me out of jail. Time for a little payback. Those pigs work for mayor Jack, and he's running for re-election. Let's make sure.
But yeah, like I said, overall it's a fun little story to pass the time and a great way to connect what used to be just a random list of objectives to now give the player some motivation to get through the levels. Speaking of the objectives, just like the later games in the Pro Skater series, it has a great mix of skill based and fun objectives. 1 minute you can be hitting combos to impress pro skaters, and the next getting involved in a high speed car chase. Sorry, I meant respecting the speed limit car chase. It's this variety that makes these games so fun to go back to and play each level. Having such a wide range of objectives means that you can fly through most of the games and never get bored, as they never really stay in one location for too long. There's always something new to do, a skater to impress or committing domestic terrorism, you know, the usual skater boy stuff. Right, time to talk about the gameplay, and first I need to apologise to Avril Lavigne and all the skater boys out there. I myself am not a skater, but I did spell it like this in the script, so hopefully that's worth something. I just wanted to bring this up as I won't be getting too technical with how certain moves or combos work, but just talking about the gameplay experience overall. So Underground's gameplay is great, and honestly the gameplay of the series as a whole has never been bad. Even the PS1 version of the original Pro Skater still holds up today, and throughout the years leading up to Underground the devs were just adding things to the formula, and by the release of Pro Skater 4 pretty much perfected what they were going for. If you've never played a Tony Hawk game before, the best way to describe it is easy to learn but difficult to master. You can easily get through most objectives even if you've never played a game before, but just go and watch someone who's actually good at these games, and it's insane how they string combos together and make it look so easy in the process, which I'm telling you right now, it's far from easy. But it's so rewarding once you actually get a decent combo going, and there's always a higher risk, higher reward the longer the combos go, because if you fall off or mess it up, you lose the whole score. Honestly, if you've played one Tony Hawk game, you've played them all. But the one thing that Underground introduced was the ability to get off your board and walk around, where you can climb ledges to get to hard to reach places to pull off some insane tricks, just like a skater would do in real life. I think anyway. Again, I'm not a certified skater boy, so this is all hearsay. For some reason though, when you're running, your character will turn into Sonic the fucking Hedgehog and will move at the speed of sound. This did annoy me a bit, as sometimes if I was trying to get to a certain point, I'd always end up overshooting my run because fucking Speedy Gonzales over here wants to move quicker than P. Diddy with a Vaseline coupon at Walmart. Getting off your board also helps to keep combos going, as when you get off it during a combo, a timer will appear letting you get to another rail or ramp to keep it going. This was especially helpful during certain combo objectives and really helped to build massive combos. The timer doesn't reset every time you do it though, so it's not as unbalanced as you think. The game also introduces driving for some reason. I'm assuming that this is in some way inspired by GTA. These driving segments are just a bit bizarre, but also they're so janky that I kinda love them. And honestly, my favourite thing as a kid was driving this absolute unit around for most of my playtime. I don't know why I did this. There is literally another game called Underground where this would be a much more enjoyable experience. Gameplay wise, Underground 1 takes the almost perfect gameplay from the Pro Skater series and just adds its own little twist to keep it fresh. Customisation has also had a big upgrade. Obviously with your created character now being the main protagonist, the game gives you way more options to make whoever or whatever the hell you want. Creator Park also makes a return, but definitely upgraded compared to its Pro Skater 4 counterpart. I can't really go into detail about it just because I'm not the most imaginative when it comes to things like this, but I also wish I had access to my old levels I made when I was a kid, because they were batshit insane, with absolutely no thought behind them, but still, I had very fond memories of just messing around in Creator Park for hours on end. One more thing I need to talk about is Create a Trick, where you can create your very own special. I tried to do it and did the same thing a 7-year-old child would do, and just try and make my character spin around as much as possible, but the game wouldn't let me do that, so I gave up. But it's actually really in depth and could make for some really cool moves, you know, if you knew what you were doing. If it's one thing Tony Hawk games are known for, it's its levels, and Underground has some great ones. Overall the game has 12 levels in total, 9 from the story mode and 3 bonus levels from Pro Skater 2. I think the only problem I have with them is that the majority of them take place in the US and Canada. There's not a lot of variety or many wacky stages included, other than the hotter than hell stage you unlock for completing the game. Even though this isn't a great level in terms of actual skating, it's very fun to mess around on. There's a little buggy you can race around in, and also you get to set off a Kiss concert by collecting the letters, which I'm not the biggest Kiss fan, but it's still a really fun extra level to have a bit of fun on. And also you can play as Gene Simmons from the band, alongside Iron Man as guest characters, which come with their own special moves and menus, which is a really cool addition also. One thing I will say that is a positive is just how well these stages hold up today. They still look so detailed and have a lot to play around with. And see, thanks to being able to get off your board and climb onto buildings, and also secret areas dotted around each map, means every inch of the map has something to offer. If I had to pick a favourite, for me it has to be Moscow. It's so different visually to every other map, and it's really the only one I just played without trying to get through the goals as quickly as possible. Just having fun doing combos, and also the snow falling later on in the level just adds a bit more to the atmosphere. It's definitely up there for me as one of the greats, and New Jersey is a close second. Oh yeah, I just thought I'd mention a little Easter egg I found in the Manhattan level. For some reason there's a Leeds badge just graffitied to a wall. I'm assuming the developer was a Leeds fan, which I really hope 20 years later he's recovered from his illness of, well, being a Leeds fan. If you ask most fans of the series, they will say that Underground has some of the best levels, and I have to agree. They have aged pretty well, there's so much detail in the worlds, they've all been created with new mechanics in mind, and they're always a blast to play on, but I just wish there was more variety and crazy locations added also. Another thing that Tony Hawk games are known for is their classic soundtracks, and Underground 1 is no different. It has one of the most varied soundtracks in all of the series, and includes a whopping 77 songs, the biggest of all the games in the series, and definitely has to be one of the biggest in all of gaming. It mainly consists of punk, rap and classic rock. And even though I only really listen to rap, I can still appreciate most of the music in this game. Obviously it's hard to talk about copyrighted music on YouTube, so I can't really give examples, but just look up the soundtrack on Spotify or YouTube and you'll see what I mean. Or just play the game with the music turned all the way up. Some of my favourite songs include Like the Angel by Rise Against, Seed by Sublime, She Said by Angry Amputees, Skin Therapy by Mr. Dibbs, and of course The World Is Yours by Nas. And there's so much more I haven't even mentioned. After playing a whole lot of this game the past few weeks, one thing that I never grew tired of was the soundtrack. It fits the game so well, and due to there being so many songs, it always felt like I was hearing something new every time I played. Growing up, Underground 1 was a game I became obsessed with as a kid. It was my first experience with the series, and it definitely made me a lifelong fan. And I'm so glad revisiting it 22 years later is still such a blast to play, and still looks good doing so. I really hope we see it remastered like its predecessors, with all its crazy storylines, wacky objectives, and maybe just a touch up on the graphics a little bit. That's better. Overall, going back to this game was really fun, and I'm so glad it's one of those games that still holds up today, and doesn't feel jarring to play in 2025. Underground 1 was a big risk from the studio to make a departure from the Pro Skater name, but I definitely think it paid off, and it wouldn't be long until we saw a sequel.
Thank you, world, for tuning in.
Just 1 year later we'd see the next game in the Underground series, and if I had to compare the two, I'd say that Underground 1 is like Saints Row 1 and 2, then Underground 2 is the third and 4. What I mean by that is Underground 2 is batshit insane when it comes to its story and gameplay. It has a lot more fun, but also still stays true to the classic Tony Hawk's gameplay loop people had grown to love at that point. I'd even say that Underground 2 is the peak of the franchise. Earlier in the video I mentioned that other series that had 2 games titled Underground, and I just realised that the song that plays in the intro video is by The Doors. And what is the most iconic song from Need for Speed Underground 2? Well, it's Riders of the Storm by, you guessed it, The Doors. This is so strange, Black Box and Neversoft must have shared an office block or something. We'd also see the release of Underground 2 Remix for the PSP, which was essentially the full game plus a few extra levels. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the greatest handheld of all time? Anyway, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 would release on PS2, Xbox, GameCube and PC in October of 2004. The story in this game is way more out there than the previous game. It starts off by your character being kidnapped by Tony Hawk and Bam Margera as they invite you to take part in the World Destruction Tour, where they both each have a team who will compete in different places around the world to cause as much chaos as possible. Sadly, you don't get to pick which team you join, you just get put on Tony Hawk's team.
Only 2 left. You gotta pick one.
Do I want the noob? Or do I want Paulie, Wheels of Fury Ryan, the 10-year-old skating madman? No more grinding on wood chippers, huh, Paulie?
That's right, baby.
Come on, Bam, make up your mind.
What's there to decide?
Are you serious? You can't decide between me and a kid in a body cast?
You want some of me? Bring it on, bitch!
I like that. He's fired up. This kid's got game. I take Paulie.
You're number 1!
But I always thought it would have been a good idea if you got to choose, and depending on which side you picked, change the objectives. Maybe Tony Hawk's side was more traditional skating, and Bam's more of the fun and silly activities. The story definitely has a strong influence from Jackass, and it definitely takes itself less seriously than the previous game. I always find it kind of funny how the original tried to be serious, like when you're in Russia and accidentally drove a fucking tank into a building, and the Russian government are just like, yeah, we'll let you go if you pull off a sick combo with the Kremlin. And that's how the story progresses. But in this story, it isn't trying to be serious one bit, so all the crazy stuff you get up to kind of makes sense. I'm not going to lie though, the objectives in this game kind of annoy me. They're just all over the place. Now this is probably down to the fact I was trying to get as much footage of each level as quick as possible, which was super easy in the original, whereas in this game you've really got to search for them. But I will say this, that there's a shit ton of stuff to do, and you really got your money's worth back in the day. Each level has unique goals you unlock for your skater, a pro teammate, and also 2 guest characters. And it's the classic mix of skating challenges mixed in with those more fun, wacky missions we come to expect from the series. I do feel like I'm rushing through the game a bit, which is a bit of a shame, because I do want to go back through and do everything in every level. And that's just down to how fun the game plays, and how unique and different all the objectives are. But fuck those stupid music goals, I still don't know how these fucking things work. If anyone knows how to do this, other than spamming the button hoping for the best, please let me know in the comments. It's been 21 years and I still don't have a fucking clue. I almost forgot to mention Classic Mode, which is insane. It is essentially the classic Pro Skater game mode where you complete mini challenges to unlock the next level, and it also includes classic maps from previous games. You also have to get stat points to add to your skater after each level. It is essentially like having 2 games in one. It's quite ironic that the remaster that just released did the complete opposite. I never played this mode as a kid, but it's a lot of fun to have that classic Pro Skater gameplay in the newer maps. Another thing I forgot to mention was the fact that both games had online functionalities, meaning you could play online, and it seemed like Underground 2 had some sort of capture the flag mini games, which sounds really fun, but obviously I have no way to try these out on the PS2 version of the game. You could also download your face to put on a creator skater, which I did a few years ago for a video, and I decided to put Lewis Capaldi's face on there for some reason. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing either. So I played both games back to back, and they're very similar in terms of just the basics. It didn't feel that much different, but obviously there's some new mechanics to play around with. You can now do rolls and flips manually rather than them just being part of a trick, and I'm pretty sure the wall plants is now just a simple tap of the jump button, which makes using it during combos a whole lot easier. Another addition of Underground 2 is a slow-mo mode. When you fill your special meter by clicking in the analog stick, the game goes into a slow-mo, helping you balance during grinds or manuals a bit better, and also linking combos together. It definitely helped me later on in the game, and it does last quite a long time. Like I said, the gameplay is very similar, but the one thing that keeps throwing me off is for some reason it just seems like your character just bounces off absolutely everything. Every time you collide with another object, you just bounce off it in the other direction, and it makes it really frustrating when you're trying to complete a simple task. But other than that, it's still that same great Tony Hawk's gameplay we've come to expect. The cars have also been replaced from the previous game. Each level now has a special character who uses a unique vehicle. For example, in Barcelona you can use Steve-O from Jackass riding a mechanical bull, or in Berlin you can use Stephen Hawking if he drank Monster instead of being a fucking nerd. These vehicles definitely fit more than the cars did in the first game, as you can still do tricks on all of them, but they are just a bit of a pain to control. Of course, there's still tons to do in terms of customization, especially with the creator skater part, which I spent hours in as a kid, just making the biggest freaks you've ever seen. And the classic creator park, which again, I wish I still had my old saves from when I was a kid, because I spent hours on it, but now I just look at this empty void, knowing that the pressures and difficulty of adult life have sucked away any joy I had of creating fun levels, and that imagination I had when I was younger has completely evaporated. You can also create a logo as well, and I've made it look like a penis. Yeah, don't worry, I haven't grown up that much. Don't get me wrong, there's some really frustrating things in Underground 2 that weren't present in the first game, but when it comes to the actual skating and putting combos together, the game was definitely the peak of the franchise. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really enjoy the levels as much as I did in the original game, and I'm not sure why that is. They just feel a bit smaller than its predecessor, but they are a lot more varied, with there being tons of levels based on cities around the world, like Berlin, Sydney and Barcelona. They're a lot more vibrant this time around and seem to have a bit more personality, but again, just seem really small. Another thing to note is most maps have a trigger in them, which can alter certain parts of the level. And also, we now have day and night cycles in most maps, which also changes the weather conditions. Like in Berlin, the map sometimes gets a bit foggy. The game has 7 main levels, 1 bonus level, and also a massive 7 classic levels on top of that, so there's a lot to play around with. If I had to pick a favourite, honestly I'm going to have to go with New Orleans, as there's so much nostalgia for this map, as it's the one I played the most, and the spooky vibe it's got going on makes it one of the most unique levels in the game. I do prefer Underground 1's maps to these, but that's just based on size, and for me they just seem to flow better. But Underground 2 has some of the most varied and unique locations of any Tony Hawk's game, and I think it offers so much in terms of its varied levels, and I'll just mention, there's a shit ton of characters to play as. There's even fucking Shrek. So you're probably expecting Shrek gameplay, but I don't know how to unlock the green bastard. I did what the online walkthrough said, and he's still locked, so here's a weird hand character you unlock instead. I'm not going to lie, I'm not as big as a fan of the Underground 2 soundtrack compared to the first game, but that's not to say it's bad. Just like its levels, it's a lot more varied when it comes to its soundtrack. Also, it includes the same punk, rap and rock mix as the original, but also throws in some older songs, like That's Life by Frank Sinatra and Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash, which both somehow fit perfectly in the game. It also includes a song called, it's called Awesome Grape, but the G is silent. I've already made one P. Diddy joke in this video, and I'm not going to do it again. But whoever was in charge of the soundtrack, you could have left this song out and everything would have been fine. Imagine being the one suggesting this song for the soundtrack. How'd you even bring it up? I hope he was put on some sort of register. Anyway, some of my favourites include Volume by Libretto, Midlife Crisis by Faith No More, and Trying to Find a Balance by Atmosphere. Like I said, I don't think it's as good as the first game's soundtrack, but still has a few bangers on here. I'll be honest, I always thought I'd enjoy Underground 2 more than the original, but for me, I was left a little disappointed. That's not to say it's a bad game, far from it. The levels are super unique and varied, the story and objectives are fun, but it just didn't feel like it had much depth as the original game did. I still had tons of fun playing it though, and it's so good to see over 20 years later, the game is still easy to enjoy and not too jarring to play. For the past 2 weeks I revisited 2 games I haven't played since I was about 10, and I really thought they would have been absolute dog shit to play 20 years later. But I can honestly say that it's been a blast to go back to both games, and even in their base console versions are still fun to play. I know I haven't spoken about every aspect of each game, like the crazy amount of tricks or the wacky guest characters and the insane amount of collectibles and replayability both games have, but I hope I've been able to convey just how fun the Underground games are and how well they hold up today. Like I said near the start of the video, I'm not a skater at all, but the Underground games definitely made me a fan, and these games are still quite special to me to this day. And I just hope and pray that they get the remaster treatment the Pro Skater series got, with all its crazy storylines, insane levels and guest skaters, and of course its unreal soundtrack. But if it doesn't, there's communities of fans keeping these games alive, like the makers of Fug Pro. As I'm writing this video, Pro Skater 3+4 still hasn't released, but I'm sure by the time I upload it, a lot of you have already played it. And if you're bored of it by then, seriously, go back and play these games, because honestly, they still feel just as good as they did over 20 years ago. So that is it for today's video. Hope you've enjoyed. If you're still watching, please like the video, comment down below and subscribe. I'm so close to 300 subscribers now. I want to keep trying to progress the channel further this year with the videos I've got left. I've got like 1 video planned per month, and then my side videos will be on my second channel. I'll link that down below. But yeah, please support the channel if you've enjoyed today's video. It helps me a lot. Honestly, there's not much in it for you to like a video, comment or subscribe. It is a very selfish thing I'm asking for, but please, if you have enjoyed, please do one of those things. But yeah, I haven't got much to add other than please support the channel in any way you can. Thank you so much for watching today. My next video will be about the Mafia games. One Mafia game in particular I'll be talking about, so keep an eye out for that. If that's something you're interested in, please subscribe, and if I've not uploaded on here, I'm probably uploading on my second channel, so please go and check that out as well. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.